with a WWE star deleting a potential WrestleMania spoiler tweet and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for March 21st. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. At WrestleMania 33, the Hardy Boys made an unannounced return to WWE to win the Raw Tag Team title. It seems the company is taking this approach when it comes to their booking plans for Cody Rhodes. As Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio, every impression I have is that he's doing the Hardys thing where you show up on the day of the show. I mean, he could show up tomorrow. We got 2 Raws left, like the Hardys when they showed up on the day of the show at WrestleMania. I know that's been talked about. Speaking of Mania, it would be noted on Sunday night's main event podcast that the show will continue to be a 2-night event. I think WrestleMania is going to be a 2-night thing going forward. I think was the first step to see will people buy, and they bought in good enough numbers. Did it sell out first day? Were the original numbers gigantic? No, but it's fine. It's a big stadium. It wasn't going to be easy to sell it out 2 days straight. I talked to people there and they certainly gave me the impression that the idea is 2 days going forward. They always can change their mind based on what happens. I think they all thought that 7-hour show just doesn't work. That's more tiring than the 2 days. After making his return to WWE as the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns has finally come into his own as a heel. While many wanted this personality shift for Roman, Bully Ray recalled on Busted Open Radio how Reigns never saw himself as a true babyface. I really will never forget this. We were in Des Moines, and Roman opens up the show with a promo. I was standing at the bottom of the gorilla position, and he goes, "Bubba, what do you think?" And he was a babyface at that time, and I said, "Honestly, you're not a babyface." And he laughed, and he goes, "I know." I go, "Everything about you reeks of heel. It really does. The tone, the inflection, the way he carries himself, he just looks like that BMF heel." Talking about the Hardys' first match together in AEW, Jim Cornette expressed concern on his podcast over this tag team's longevity, because it's been, 3 years? At the last time they got together 5 years ago, it had been 3 years. Honestly, I have to say that if the Hardy Boys had been together consistently for the past 5 years, we might have been having a different conversation, as I am not sure if either one of them would still be worth an actual major investment, as a part of it is, it's new, and the people were also smart enough to know this might be their last run, so we could see the Hardys back together. Matt and Jeff were able to come out on top in their bout against Private Party, as it'll be interesting to see how things play out for them. Since making a WWE comeback in 2020, Edge has been involved in numerous programs with the likes of Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, and Seth Rollins. Talking about him on the MacMania podcast, Renee Paquette said Edge changed the game during the Thunderdome era. The man has been around for some time. Like I said, he knows how to connect with the audience. He's got those beautiful promo skills, and what I was talking about, he's always been a great promo, but what I was talking about especially during the pandemic time, I feel like he really stepped it up more than most. I will always remember being backstage and I was still with WWE and Edge had returned, building up to WrestleMania. I believe that was when it was the greatest WrestleMania match of all time with him and Randy, and him getting ready in a dark corridor, going over his promo, going straight to camera. People were trying to figure out, how are we doing promos now that there's no audience? How are we going to do it in this empty arena situation? And I feel like Edge was the first one to really tap into that, and I feel like he kind of changed the game a little bit. Again, he just keeps reinventing. He looks better than ever, and I'm just talking promos. We're not even talking in the ring, because if we get in the ring, it's a whole different conversation. But the dude is firing on all cylinders. On last week's episode of AEW Dynamite, Thunder Rosa was able to defeat Britt Baker for the women's title in a steel cage. On Busted Open Radio, AEW President Tony Khan said this was perfect for Rosa to win. It was incredible. I thought it was very fitting that 1 year after the original St. Patrick's Day Slam, which won the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Match of the Year, and Dave, I know you spoke about it as your pick for Match of the Year also last year, to come back this year at St. Patrick's Day Slam with a steel cage match in Thunder Rosa's hometown, San Antonio, I thought it was such an incredible way for Thunder Rosa to win the championship for the first time. It was a great milestone to have the first Mexican-American women's world champion ever in AEW in Thunder Rosa crowned in her hometown. I thought it was so cool. The entrance was her idea with the mariachi band. She asked me about it after the pay-per-view. I thought it was awesome, and I was just really excited about this match. And I thought it was such a great way to thank the fans, and it was a great way for AEW to come to San Antonio. Sticking with Thunder Rosa, she recently addressed critics of her cage match against Britt Baker, telling NBC Sports Boston, "Everybody's gonna criticize no matter what. I mean, even on Wednesday, people were criticizing. Why are you guys? Why is there so much blood? Why is there so much? Why are you so violent? Why is this? Why is that?" It's like people are programmed a certain way, and they've been programmed for professional wrestling for decades a certain way because of how things have been handled before. You guys can criticize us all you want, but we're working really hard in every single company, I feel, because we're changing things little by little, and I'll tell you myself, I'm taking that to a next level. I run a women's promotion on purpose so people can see we're not a popcorn match. Every single match is a banger, you know, and I have one exhibition match, and that's the men's match, on purpose, you know? So like I said, give us time. It's gonna happen. When CM Punk made his return to pro wrestling in AEW, Powerhouse Hobbs was one of his first opponents at Arthur Ashe Stadium in September. On Superstar Crossover, Hobbs revealed that Punk will always watch his matches and critique them. I will say this about him, he may get mad, but Punk is one of those dudes. After every match that I have that airs, he always sits down and watches it with me. So we sit down together and we break down stuff. He may get mad, but I told the whole world, Punk, so you're that dude. By that match in Arthur Ashe, New York City for 20,000 plus people, it was crazy. That whole night had a special meaning to me, and Punk knew that because it was about a month since my mom passed away, so my emotions and everything were everywhere. Right before the match got announced, or the day the match got announced, you know, he pulled me aside and said, "This is gonna be for her. Don't worry about anything else, nobody else. It's just you, me, and her." That I will forever be grateful for. With him answering the challenge of Kevin Owens, Stone Cold Steve Austin will be making his return to WWE at WrestleMania 38 for a segment with KO. On Sunday night's Main Event podcast, Dave Meltzer would note that Austin could be getting ready for a brawl. He's training very hard, so it's going to be more than that. Will he do a 20-minute match? No, I don't think so. Will he go 7 minutes or something and have a brawl all over the place? I kind of expect that, yeah. The Austin Owens segment is set to close out the first night of Mania 38, with fans surely interested to see what transpires. Speaking of WrestleMania, after becoming a two-time NCAA champion and retiring from amateur wrestling, Gable Steveson would take to Twitter to note that he will be at WrestleMania. This post would be deleted as it could have been a spoiler. Back in 2019 at the Super Showdown, a dream match would quickly turn into a nightmare as The Undertaker faced off against Bill Goldberg. With a botched jackhammer nearly ending Taker's life, the dead man revealed on the True Geordie podcast that he should have changed the original plans for the bout. People are expecting big things because it's Goldberg and it's Undertaker. I'm thinking, we gotta pay this off. Maybe if I was working more often, I would have recognized the fact that maybe we really should not do that. That was one of those instances where 2 inches difference in landing, I don't get up. It is simply just one of those things that happen. Goldberg did that move a lot of times. I don't know if he was concussed at that point yet. Part of that is because I'm not working a full schedule at that point. I'm not kicking on all my cylinders where I can recognize that, okay, maybe we shouldn't do this. Taker would also note what is missing from the current WWE product. I feel like there is a level of grit that is missing from today's product. I don't know that it's anybody's fault. We all aged out and that new group has come up. When you watch Brock Lesnar wrestle, you're interested because you know he's got this background not only only as an amateur wrestler, professional wrestler, mixed martial artist. Brock doesn't do a bunch of crazy moves. Brock manhandles your ass. You get in there and you get thrown around and you get smashed. You know, and Roman Reigns has a little bit of that too. And when he wants to, Randy Orton has that to him when he wants to. But a lot of the younger talent, it's that the evolution of that comic book era, the superhero era. And I think that's their motivation. And that's what their inspiration is. And they didn't have to come up and bust heads in bars and figure out how they were going to eat and things like that. With him set to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, The Undertaker had this to say about it on the Out of Character podcast. There will be times that I'm smiling, but I'm worried about the times where I will probably lose my composure a little bit. Everybody knows who The Undertaker is, but this will be a glimpse into Mark Calaway as well. I'm only starting to get used to talking like this, and being open like this. It's always been really difficult for me to carry on conversations as Mark Calaway in these kinds of settings. It was just a few years back, one of my surgeons wanted me to speak at a convention, and I was terrified because I've never given that to anybody. I didn't even really know who I was, other than that was my identity. The Undertaker was my identity, and I could get in front of 100,000 people and I could cut a promo for 15 minutes and not think twice about it. But Mark Calaway, that's a whole other story, because I just never did it. When I retired, we were still in the middle of COVID, so there was nobody there. They did an amazing production for me, but there were no fans there. There were only employees and people that I had personally invited, so that one wasn't as difficult as what the Hall of Fame is going to be. I mean, that's going to be interesting. That was the second call that I got. I was approached a few years earlier and they wanted to induct me then, but I didn't have closure yet, and I was still figuring I was going to work a couple more times, so I passed. When Vince called me this time, as I said, yeah, I'm good, it's time. That let me know, like, I'm coming to grips with the fact that obviously the career is over, and it's time for that next chapter. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.